Hey, Joe, it's what's today's the 19th of July, 2023. I've got a head cold, but hey, at least the people who are joining us won't catch it from me this afternoon, so that's a good thing. And how's been things for you in the last couple of weeks?
Actually, it's been pretty awesome. I did a roadmap event last night. As you saw when you walked in the office, I had the roadmap thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it prompted a couple of clients have been not struggling with, but really understanding the importance of an org chart, roles and responsibilities, and KPIs.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. It sounds like a great topic for today, which we've kind of prepared for. But let's start this out by, can you, and I apologize for the flickering of my my video screen. Can you, I'm actually going to share the screen because I've got the our, our slide situation set up here. But the question is, can you define really what an org chart is?
Yes, it's. I'm going to use a couple of different analogies. In the military, we call it the chain of command.
Okay.
In the corporate world, it's called an org chart, and it's who reports to who and who's responsible for what. So it really defines where people are supposed to play. From a baseball standpoint, it's who's on first, what's on second. I don't know, who's on third base, right?
Okay.
So it's really defining what roles you're playing, because otherwise you're going to get overlap, or multiple people think they're responsible for the same thing, or you get the pointing, oh, they're responsible for that. No, they're responsible for that, which is what's happening with a couple of the companies that I've been working with this last week. We're getting
Mm,
this. Oh, that's not
okay.
my job. That's somebody else's job.
Okay.
And defining that will happen. So what happens when this happens? Stuff falls through the cracks and doesn't get done.
Got it. Got it. So it makes sense that you need to do that, to set that up. Um, and so that everybody has a sense for that. So why is it so challenging for businesses to do that,
Well,
especially small businesses?
because you're small. Like, well, everybody does everything. I've heard that, and
Mm-hmm.
and that means nobody's responsible for anything. And
Mm,
as a business owner, when you're a technician, then you're used to kind of doing that everything yourself. But
mm-hmm.
as we start getting more sophisticated, it's like if you're playing baseball, if you're playing sandlot baseball and you're out there having fun, everybody running around, all you're worried
Mm-hmm.
about is having fun. Well, when you start getting in a competitive environment, you can't do that anymore. Everyone's got to know their job.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a hobby, then it probably doesn't matter. But as you start getting sophisticated, you got to know who's supposed to do what. And when people start out, they don't think about the different hats that you have to wear. And so even if you're a solopreneur, you need an org chart of who's doing what, so you can get in the right modality.
Mm-hmm.
So the org chart helps everyone define what their job is, what and how they're doing a good job. Because most people, I don't want to say everyone, most people want to do a good job. They just
Mm-hmm.
need to know what a good job is. And it's our job as leaders to tell them.
To help them figure that out. I think your analogy of a sports type of situation makes a lot of sense. People who follow any kind of team sport, whether it's American football, international football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I mean, if the in ice hockey, the goalie has a very specific role. Right. And if he's not there, if he tries to play the role of the left wing, I mean, it's just like not there's going to be a problem. So
But if you're out there just having fun,
it
it
doesn't
does.
care. It doesn't make any difference. You have like,
Yeah, hey, you having fun. Hey, the goalie came out of the goal and he took a slap shot. Who cares, right? But if you get competitive, guess what? That's not going to work.
it's not going to
And
work.
business is
Is
about, it's somewhat
yeah.
of competition. When I say competition, is making each other better. But the more sophisticated, the more professional you get, the more you have to define those roles and responsibilities and KPIs, key performance indicators. What
Right.
are the metrics that you know that you're doing a good job?
All right, well, let's get into this a little bit more because we talked about this, but what's interesting to me when you start a business, one of the things that we've chatted about before is that your business org chart starts looking like this at the very beginning, right? I mean, you, especially when you're a solopreneur and you have an idea, you are in, I mean, you got them
You know
all.
everything. Well, but the key here is start defining what those roles are.
Mm,
So you say, okay, like in this one, the top one is probably the CEO, the left one, sales and marketing operations, and so you got to define that so you know what to do when you're in that role.
so by putting a definition or a description into what these boxes actually represent, you are enabling yourself to have that specific mindset so that you can brain share for that function when you're in that function. Is that the idea?
That's the idea. And then you can start to figure out what you want to delegate. So
Mm,
what, because it's like, okay, you know what? I do my skills fund matrix. I want to
mhm.
delegate this. What is that job description? What are the processes for that? Because if you don't have a process and KPIs, it's hard to delegate appropriately. You'll
Right.
end up abdicating and abdicating, you never get the results you want.
Got it.
So, so define the process and then you can start delegating. You can't delegate until you educate. It's that simple.
That's simple. Okay. Well, we put in a chart that is a little bit more like what one might expect to see.
Right.
Where
And
you,
so this one, the name could be you
it could
in
be,
those roles.
but this one is identified by role, whereas
Right.
the other one was just, there's all the boxes. But so when you're structuring your organizational chart, you need to be thinking about that. And the chart and the identifiers in the boxes are not necessarily going to be the same for every business, because if you're an online business, you're not necessarily going to have the manufacturing and production, stuff down here, you know.
Well, oh, it gets a lot more fun the bigger you get because you can have functional management, you can have matrix management, you can have geographic management. So as you grow, the organizational will change.
Mhm,
Almost as soon as you define the organizational structure, it's going to change because a headcount's added or roles and responsibilities change. So this
mhm.
is a living, breathing thing, but it tells people what they're supposed to be doing in that space and time.
Yeah,
So, me without, I've got to refer to a book, at some space and time.
sure.
Um, so, this book, Organizational Theory and Design,
Hold
goes
on,
through.
let's point that up again. Organizational theory and design. Yeah, okay.
So this is one of my favorites that talks about different organizational structures. When you're small, it doesn't matter as much. But you start hitting that $5 million space, you got to start looking at, okay, who reports to who and what makes the most sense and how do I get efficient.
I think an important term you used was a living, breathing a thing. So it's not static, and you can't and shouldn't try to force it to be static, because if you do that, then you're constantly doing this square peg round hole kind of a thing, as opposed to allowing your organization to evolve into the type of entity that it needs to be in order to provide your product or service and achieve your goals and objectives.
That's right, and it's getting the right person in the right seat on the right bus too.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
one of the challenges that one of my clients is having right now is they got the wrong person in the wrong seat.
And that'll have some impact. So let's take this another step down where and I were talking about position or job descriptions, because I think a lot of people think that can be that they don't think about that in terms of anything more than a label. A lot of
Yep.
people think of it as a label, but it's a lot more than a label, right? And you start out by saying you have to look at your org chart. So from your org chart, you do have boxes, and the boxes have a label. So this is the name or the title of that position. But it goes further. you say each box in the org chart needs a position or job description. What do you
That's
mean
right.
by that?
Well, by defining the job description, and these don't need to be, these should not be 15 pages long. I had one that lists out every single task that somebody did. No, it's the job function. So, for example, you start with the CEO. What's the CEO's job description? Well, their job is lead the organization. Their metrics are strategic direction. Where's the company going? That means so strategic direction. They probably need to spend X percentage of their time on that. So in the position description that I recommend, it's what job description or strategic direction is 20% of your time. I'm making up the numbers depending on the CEO and where they're at in the life cycle of the business. Second one is managing the other functions. You know what? That's probably taken up 60-70% of their time. And then a profitable revenue growth. You know what? You've got to know your financials. That's probably another 20% of your time or whatever.
You know what you're describing there, or what I'm hearing you describe there, is the activities that we talk about in the calendaring system, where you have a sense of what are the tasks and functions, and identifying what percentage or how much of your available time you should be allocating to particular types of activity.
Right. And these are puzzle pieces that fit together. Because if someone doesn't know how much time they should be allocating to something, they're going to spend all the time that they like to do, not necessarily what needs to get done.
Right,
So
right.
by helping define that, I want you to spend X percent of your time on this, and then it goes into KPIs.
Right.
So let's say strategic direction. What's the KPI for that? Well, there's a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 1-year plan. Boom. Okay, managing the other functions. Every function has a position description, KPIs, development plan with metrics.
Yeah.
Profitable revenue growth. We're reviewing the financials on a monthly basis to ensure profitable revenue growth. Otherwise, we need to adjust something based on delegating to the other management team.
Right.
Those are the KPIs for a CEO. For the other functions, it's not hard to develop them.
And you
It
can
usually
figure
takes
them out.
20 minutes. After you've done a couple of these, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But until you've done it, it's just like driving a car. Until you've done it, it's really hard.
There's another nuance here that I think that I want to touch on, and that is because you mentioned earlier, as you're having defined the roles in the descriptions, etc., as you add personnel, you have the opportunity to delegate, and the opportunity to delegate means that you can review your skills fund matrix and start to allocate those things that don't absolutely require your skill and that are not fun for you to somebody else. However, at the beginning, when you first get started, you have to understand that these activities are necessary activities, and though they may not be fun for you and they may be more challenging for you because it's not at the top of your skill level, you need to put some time and attention into them. And then maybe you'll be able to release some of that through virtual assistances so that you don't have to spend a lot of money on payroll. But those jobs have to be filled. Those functions have to be done.
I had one yesterday. A guy did a skills fund, or actually he did the urgent important stuff. And one of the things that he wrote as not important was maintaining the vehicles. And I went, really? That's not important. And in his mind, it wasn't important, but he didn't understand the implications of if that's not done, what happens.
Yeah, right.
And all of a sudden, it became important, but not urgent.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Very cool. All right, let's take the next level down on this, which was you can have the same name in multiple boxes, but not multiple names in the same box.
Yes. This is a critical thing. If 2 people are responsible for the same thing, no one's responsible. So you can't have 2 CEOs. You can't have 2 chief operating officers. If you try to do that, it gets very, very difficult. So I'm recommending it's a different job.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because we have had in the last I don't know, 5-7 years, there have been a couple of major corporations that had these co-CEO thing. How do they effectively do something like that? Maybe if they say, we're co-CEOs, but you handle North America and you handle the rest of the world, maybe that works. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So it's defined, to me, that is two separate boxes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're both responsible for anything, stuff's going to fall through the cracks. You're going to get this. Oh, I thought you were taking care of that. I thought you were taking care of that. So the position description or job description defines who's responsible for what.
Got it. Okay. Well, very cool. That was what I wanted to do here is we didn't have a slide for this thing on KPIs necessarily, but you've mentioned it multiple times. And I know that we've talked about key performance indicators and stuff like that in the past. And I don't think we can take a lot of time on that today. I want to address that because for me, in my career in sales in a lot of different organizations, they used to call them whatever you want, targets or sales quotas and stuff like that.
Yep.
And
Sales is the easiest one.
Yeah, they sort of are, but they tended to be used as what's the word I want to use?
A stick instead of a carrot.
Yeah. They were almost vindictive in the way that they utilize these sort of things. You're responsible for this, and if you don't meet that number, you're out of here.
Right.
But my sense in all our conversations regarding the usage of KPIs is that that's not the objective.
No, the objective is, hey, is this a realistic KPI? Because the employees are the one doing it. If you're putting together unrealistic KPIs that you don't have input from the employee, it's a waste. It's a big waste of energy. So it's got to be mutually agreed upon. This is a position description that both people sign, the manager and the employee. And then it's okay, if you're not reaching these KPIs that we've agreed upon, what needs to happen to help you do that? What tools, resources, training, new telephone systems, auto dialers, what do we need to do to hit those KPIs at that level? I'll give you an example of answering the phones, a receptionist. Okay, the receptionist needs to answer 90% of the phones within 3 rings. Okay, well, if they're doing all this other stuff, they may not be able to do that. So what do we need to do to achieve that KPI? It's a process, not something else. Maybe we need a backup answering service. Maybe we need this. Maybe we need additional training. But those type of KPIs are easy to define and easy to manage. Sales ones are easy. Operational ones, it's typically some kind of cost structure. Okay, we need to keep our variable cost or our cost of goods sold at 50%. How do we do that? Okay, we're managing that. We're not hitting that. What do we need to do from a process standpoint to improve that? There are no people problems. There's only process problems.
So just what are some of the more challenging areas, roles, jobs to be able to identify reasonable KPIs?
So any type of assistant, anything. Because it's like, okay, well, you're assisting this person. What are the KPIs typically reside with that person? Your job is to make them successful. And so then you can have joint KPIs, which is team or team KPIs, which are okay. So that you're responsible for making sure the team gets that and the team gets rewarded. So this is another philosophy.
That might work in environments where you've got programming activities that are going on, and you've got multiple individuals working on different parts of the development of a software application or something, and they're in different, whatever. But the objective is to get all this done. So you have a team KPI, though there might be some smaller individual KPIs relative to the particular part of the overall project that you are dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, most companies don't spend enough time on the metrics.
Ooh.
Metrics drive behavior.
When you
Remember
say
that.
don't spend most time on them, do you mean defining them?
Yes.
Oh.
Go do a good job. Okay, I'm doing whatever I think I'm supposed to be doing. I think I'm doing a good job. Performance evaluation comes up. They're like, "What do you mean I'm not doing my job?" And that's the worst scenario there can be when one person thinks they're doing a great job,
Mm-hmm.
exceptional job, and you think they're not. That's a big problem with metrics.
Mm, mm,
And it's simple. I'll do a manager metric. Everybody has a performance review. Everyone has a job description. Everyone has one-on-ones. I remember a manager I won't go and said, "Okay, so how you doing? Well, are you doing your one-on-ones? No, I don't think that's important." Well, guess what? It's very important, and either you do them or that's part of your job.
mm-hmm.
I walked around and said, "Hey, are you guys getting your one-on-ones? You manage 2 levels down, 1 level up." So I'd go and ask, "Oh no, we're not doing one-on-ones at all." Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "What do you mean you're not doing one-on-ones?" I'd ask the manager, "Are you doing your one-on-ones?" "Oh yeah, I walk by every day, say, hey, how you doing?"
A little different definition.
A and those he thought he was doing a great job. He thought he was doing his one-on-ones. Whose responsibility was to make sure that he understood and has a good process for doing one-on-ones? His manager.
His manager. Okay. Well, Joe, this has been really good. I hope our folks are gaining from this. In my takeaway from today's conversation is that it is very important at the senior level of the organization to review your organizational structure on an ongoing basis. It is very important to review your job descriptions on an ongoing basis, not just because people might change, but because the environment changes, the market changes, the whole business operations can change, and therefore the things that individuals might need to be responsible for might change. I'll use this as an example. 25 years ago, when we were doing our business stuff, social media management was not something that anybody had to deal with or that you needed to have any kind of job description or KPI for. Okay. And if you're operating off of something that today in the last 6 or 8 months with generative AI stuff, that kind of a impact on what's going on in your business is something that you need to be thinking about and reviewing on an ongoing basis. So there we have it.
Well, I'm going to give you one that is a real life story. The strategic direction of the company changed from revenue growth, from profitable growth. So we had a target margin of X. We said, well, we want to grow the revenue, so we're going to take a smaller margin. Okay. So now it doesn't sound like a big deal, but all of a sudden the sales metrics change, the marketing metrics change, and that's got to roll all the way down. So you know what? We want more revenue. We're going to take a smaller margin. So if your KPI is what's the profit margin on a deal, guess what?
You're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to change your metrics based on the strategic direction.
Got it. Okay. Well, Joe, thank you again for this decompression conversation. As always, it's a pleasure to confer with you and to learn. So thank you very much. And folks, see you again. We're going to put this video out as we normally do for those of folks who weren't able to participate today, but appreciate those of you that are here. Bye now.